It's over. The votes are in, the race has been called, and Thomas Massie, 7-term congressman, self-styled libertarian constitutionalist, and perhaps the single most obstinate thorn in Donald Trump's side in the entire Republican House caucus, just got crushed. Not nudged out, not edged out by a hair, crushed. Just like we predicted yesterday. In fact, it was even worse than we thought. Stick them to the very end of this video because we're going to break down the devastating numbers, and then we're going to talk about what this result means for the soul of the Republican Party, for the MAGA movement, and for every libertarian purist who actually thought they could co-opt MAGA by blocking Trump. Sorry. The voters of Kentucky set a message loud and clear. This is Trump's party. This is Trump Nation, and there's absolutely no going back. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, enjoying yet another glorious day in the Trumpian golden age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, watching videos like these is a great place to start, but the Patriots who are actually building something are not doing it alone. The Courageous Patriots Club is our members-only community where you get weekly Turley Walks episodes, live Monday night Q&A, on-demand workshops, and uncensored commentary you simply are not going to find anywhere else online. Scan the QR code on your screen and come join my exclusive club today. All right, let's dive right in here, gang. It was the most expensive House primary in American history, not just in Kentucky, not just for the year 2026. We're talking the single most expensive House primary ever. And it resulted in a landslide defeat at the hands of a Kentucky farmer and retired Navy SEAL named Ed Galrin, backed by the Godzilla of politics, one Donald J. Trump. Let's start with the raw numbers because they are pretty brutal. The final tally showed Galrin with 54.4% of the vote to Massie's 45.6%, a near double-digit blowout. And it gets even more devastating when you look at the geographic breakdown. Ed Galrin won 19 out of 21 counties in Kentucky's 4th Congressional District. 19 of 21. Massie was left clinging to just 2 counties, including barely his own home county. That was not just a loss. That was a political demolition. And this result wasn't a surprise to anyone paying attention. The polls had been pointing to this for days now. We talked about this in yesterday's video. The final Gray House poll had Massie losing by 7 points. The final Quantas Insights poll, and keep in mind, Quantas is one of the most accurate pollsters of 2024. They had Massie losing by 8 points. The final result was Massie losing by 9. Everything suggested that this incumbent was going to get crushed. Undecided voters were breaking for Galrin by more than 2-1 in the final stretch. That's the signature of a campaign in total freefall. NBC News called the primary for Galrin roughly an hour after the polls closed, and President Trump was ready. He immediately took to Truth Social to celebrate, posting a photo of Galrin in triumph, a fitting victory lap for a president whose endorsement has now become the single most powerful force in Republican primary politics. Now, what's so tragic in many ways here about this political fall of Massie is that it just didn't have to be this way. You know, he wasn't always this kind of obstructionist fringe figure. In many ways, originally, he inherited the mantle of consistent principled libertarianism from Ron Paul. He was a champion of MAGA as a representative of the more libertarian populist wing, a relatively small wing, but very committed, very organized, very politically engaged. And then he just turned. He became an anti-Trump, Epstein-obsessed Israel lunatic, anti-Israel lunatic, despite the fact that he tweeted about Epstein a grand total of 3 times in the entire decade prior to 2025. And that's what makes this whole notion that Massie is this epitome of principled opposition such an obvious farce. He didn't give a rip about Epstein the entire Biden presidency. He didn't care. It wasn't even on his radar. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, he became Epstein obsessed. Interestingly, only when Democrats co-opted the issue in a deliberate bid to politically harm Trump. And so Massie, who's supposedly, again, this champion of the Constitution, ended up allying himself with the very party that wants to destroy the Constitution. And he exploited Epstein, again, an issue he didn't give a rip about his entire political career. He exploited this Epstein issue as his wedge issue. But the real nail in the coffin for Trump in the end was Massie's opposition to the one big beautiful bill. That's when Trump said enough. I mean, this was Trump's signature domestic legislation encompassing tax cuts, border security, energy dominance. And Massie voted against it twice, once in its original House version and then in the Senate ratified version. And had Trump lost that fight, if Trump lost his signature domestic legislation, if it went down in defeat in Congress, that would have been politically catastrophic for Trump, and it would have been absolutely horrific for the MAGA movement. That's when I turned on Massie, if you want the full scoop here. I turned on Massie. I mean, how anyone could still be pro-Trump and pro-Massie is beyond me. I think that's cognitive dissonance at its worst, and I think you have to spin the situation to a level of absurdity I just can't follow. I know a lot of guys in politics and political activism who love Massie. I'm sure some of you may continue to be supporters. God bless you. But when you endanger the MAGA movement like that, when you endanger the MAGA movement at the same time Elon was piling on Trump and puking all over the BBB and threatening to start a third party, that's when I turned on Elon. That reaction was so ridiculously over the top. It was so completely uncalled for, totally irrational in the face of the existential threat that the Democrats pose to our nation. To completely lose perspective on that, to allow this issue or that issue to cause you to try to blow up the MAGA movement, that was the only thing standing in the way of the Democrats' complete destruction of our nation. There's no excuse for that. You are not our friend if you're doing that. And so Elon, of course, has since been humbled, and he's realigned himself with Trump. And Massie, for his part, he deservedly got crushed in his primary. It got even worse with the Iran war. He ended up becoming both Epstein obsessed and Israel obsessed, as it turns out. And the voters in Kentucky simply didn't give a crap about either. And so they Liz Cheney'd him, and most deservedly so. But there's an even bigger lesson to be learned from this. And it's a lesson that promises to change the Republican Party and the nation forever. This is going to absolutely blow you away. But first, right now, an estimated 31 million Americans are taking GLP-1 medications like Ozempic and Wegovy. But as more people start using them, more concerns are starting to surface as well. In just the past few months alone, lawsuits tied to these drugs have nearly doubled in the United States, jumping from around 2,000 cases at the beginning of the year to nearly 4,000 today. I mean, look at these celebrities who succumb to what's called Ozempic face. That doesn't look like the picture of health to me. Now, some of these side effects could be much more serious, including stomach paralysis, organ death, anxiety, depression, and sudden vision loss. Some people are even reportedly dying. For many people, weight gain may have less to do with willpower and more to do with what's happening in your gut. Researchers are learning more every year about how much the gut microbiome impacts things like cravings, bloating, inflammation, digestion, mood, energy levels, and long-term weight management. So instead of simply slowing the digestive system down, many people are now looking for ways to actually support their gut naturally. And that's one reason kimchi has gotten so much attention of late. Kimchi has 900 plus beneficial probiotics that help support digestion, reduce bloating, improve regularity, and promote a healthier gut environment naturally. Some studies have even pointed to kimchi's remarkable ability to support healthy body composition. In one preclinical study, researchers observed body fat reductions of up to 31.8%. Now, the problem is that most people simply aren't eating enough kimchi consistently to see meaningful results. So that's why Brightcore created Kimchi 1, with over 900 plus strains of beneficial bacteria that deliver all the benefits of real kimchi in convenient capsules. No taste, no smell, non-GMO, and 100% made right here in the USA. Today, you can try Kimchi 1 by clicking the link below for 25% off your order, or for the best deal available, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off plus free shipping. Give them a call now at 888-597-0233. That's 888-597-0233. Now, let's zoom out a bit here, because what happened in Kentucky last night is really much more than just one congressman losing a primary. This is about the very identity of the Republican Party and who owns the MAGA movement. And the answer is becoming crystal clear. The MAGA movement belongs to one person. We're going to talk more about the Republican Party in our next video. I want to really focus right now on the MAGA movement itself. The MAGA movement, when all said and done, if you are MAGA, you are loyal ultimately not to a policy, you're loyal ultimately to a person. The MAGA movement belongs, when all said and done, to one person, not to libertarianism, not to the Rand Paul wing, not to the Thomas Massie brand of ideological purity. In fairness, not to Steve Bannon or Steve Turley for that matter. The MAGA movement does not belong to the establishment or rhinos or neocons. The MAGA movement belongs to one person, Donald J. Trump. Think about what unites the MAGA movement. It's not classical libertarianism. It's not small government theory. It's not obsessive deficit hawk constitutionalism. It's not principled republicanism. It's not Epstein. It's not go along to get along establishmentism. It's not the far right. It's not the anarcho-populist. It's not any particular wing of the modern day center right. What ultimately unites MAGA voters is Donald J. Trump, because they see Trump alone as the one man who will stand up and fight for them. They see Donald Trump alone as the one man who will never abandon them. He will never betray them. It does not come down to a single issue or policy. It doesn't come down to Trump supposedly breaking his promise or failing to deliver. It comes down to the fact that Donald J. Trump has proven himself to be the one man who will stand up and fearlessly face any foe that seeks to destroy this country and fight on our behalf. Fight, fight, fight. If you don't understand that, I wrote a whole book on this called, interestingly enough, Fight. If you don't understand that, I'm sorry, you don't get MAGA. You don't get MAGA, you don't get the Trump phenomenon. Too many commentators, too many podcasters out there are ultimately advocates for a particular wing of the right, a particular sliver of MAGA. They're advocates for this issue or for that issue, this political paradigm or that political paradigm, a particular ideology, a particular political philosophy. And when MAGA overlaps with that, oh, they're so happy, they're all in, jolly, jolly. But when MAGA moves in a different direction, as it inevitably will, they're the ones that feel betrayed. They're the first ones to, that's it, it's over. That's not the overwhelming majority of MAGA voters. Those are not the voters that showed up in Kentucky's 4th last night. MAGA voters are held together ultimately not by a policy, but by a person. Not by a faithfulness to an ideology, but a willingness to fight for what is good. They don't care about a message. They care about a man. And when that man points his finger at a politician he says is standing in his way to make America great again, MAGA voters get rid of him quick. That's why Donald Trump has an endorsement success rate of 97%. It's unprecedented, 97%. Trump fights for us, and we fight for him. That's the MAGA movement. And Tom Massie, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Liz Cheney, Bill Cassidy, and a growing number of once Republican faithful, they're all learning that when Trump fights for us and we fight for him, we win. Every single time. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section below. I'm sure you got a lot to say about this. And as always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button for breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless.